In the world of expensive guns, it feels like it's been dominated by 2011s for a while now. While 2011s are awesome, they aren't for everyone. So Sig revamped their 226 lineup with the 226X, an aluminum frame version of their X5 available in double action and single action only. While the gun isn't a budget-friendly gun, it's on the lower end of a pricey gun. But how does the redesigned 226X stack up next to the old 226 Legion and the X5? And how does it stack up next to like a Staccato P226? We're gonna look at all of that. So I've been a fan of the 226 for a while now. This was my first 226 that I bought basically when they cut it for a slide. I then picked up a 229, which I'm still a huge fan of. This is a wildly underappreciated gun. It's fantastic. I even bought the new 226 X5 when it came out, and I still think it's an awesome gun. It's a very fun gun to shoot. I'm a big fan of hammer-fired guns for appendix carry, so those guns really kind of fit the bill for what I was looking, not the big heavy one, but the other ones fit the bill for an appendix carry gun. So the 226X is appealing to me in that same way. It's a kind of modern take on what the 226 could be. Now, I like to tell you guys how I get guns on the channel. This was actually sent, both the optic and the gun, by Sig Sauer after their Sig Next event. I've had it for a few months now, carrying it, taking it out probably 4 or 5 times to shoot with cameras and probably 4 or 5 times to shoot without cameras. It doesn't mean I'm gonna sit here and say all the nice things in the world about Sig. There are some negatives you're gonna want to know specifically about this pistol. But I did want to get kind of my 226 fanboyism out on the table because I'm a fan of the double single guns of the late 80s, early 90s, like the Beretta 92s. I'm a big fan of those as well. So I'm a big fan of these guns when they get like modernized or whatever. So, I mean, I've got several 92s and I've got a few of the 226s now. So let's talk about what the gun is. First and foremost, it is a Legion series of the gun, which means it's the fanciest. It's got the best trigger. It's got nice grips. It's got night sights. And that used to mean a lot when there used to be like several variants of the 226 that you could buy. And now at this point, it's like they only make the Legion. So it's like if they're all special, then why have the special name on them? But the big differences between these guns, you can kind of just look at these slides. If you look at the regular OG 226 slide, the serrations kind of stop right here and then it steps in for the top of the slide. Whereas the new gun has the 226 X5 slide where the serrations come up higher and it's like a tri-top slide. So it's not exactly the same profile. Similarly, the dust cover, if you look at it, is longer on the X than it is on the Legion. But more importantly than that, this is actually a bit of a game-changing feature, is if you look at the relief under the trigger guard right there and how ridiculously relieved it is, it gets your hand much higher on a high bore axis pistol, which is appreciated, versus the old Legion guns, which have a little bit of relief, but nowhere near the same. This one fine detail makes the gun shoot appreciably more tame. And on top of that, there is now a bull barrel with a target crown profile versus the pencil barrel that is in the old Legion guns. I don't know how much of that you can see, but the bull barrel is appreciably fatter. The other big change is that the X5 style SAO grips are the grips that come on this pistol. These are, I think, Hogue is who makes these, and there is space for a magwell to be accepted by it. This one's got LOK grips on it. If you want some LOK grips, code HUMBLE can help you out there. Helps me out too, and I appreciate it. So LOK is making these pretty aluminum gridlock grips for it, and they're absolutely fantastic. They just really make the gun feel even more planted in your hand on what is already a super ergonomic gun. So you basically have most of the same stuff on the X5 on the 226X, which costs, it's more than half, but not a whole lot more than half of what the X5 costs. There's a couple other things about the 226X that is not on the Legion 226. First and foremost is up at the top of the grip. If you've shot 226s, you know that there's that weird kind of like build up right here near the decocker. That's not present on the SAO gun. It doesn't have that build up. It just kind of runs all the way up to the top. The takedown lever has been recontoured. It's kind of like a little shelf that comes out away from the gun that makes an absolutely fantastic memory point for your thumb, almost like a gas pedal, but it's just a nice memory point is how it kind of works out. The trigger is the Sig X trigger, which is kind of that 90-degree hinge trigger that is, I mean, appreciably nicer than the, I like the profile better than the one that came on my X5, which is the hook trigger. Hook trigger is good, but I feel like I've just got better control with the X trigger. Coming up on top of the slide, we have the Sig Lock cut now, which is their take on kind of like a do-all cut. It takes Delta Point Pro, RMR, and the Sig LOK optics cut. And what that means is the Sig LOK ones is like a Delta Point Pro, but the screws come up from underneath the slide. Sig's the only person making optics in that footprint. There are not recoil bosses, I believe, on the Sig LOK cut. I think it's all done with like the screws and how the optic interfaces with the cut. Sig can do that on their optics because they can control the tolerance of the optic and the slide. So just something to be aware of. And the 226X is gonna come with 3 18-round magazines. It's only available in 9mm, so there's that. Let's talk about how the guns kind of shoot next to each other. We'll get into that, but first I wanna tell you about a collaboration I have with Run and Gun. Run and Gun makes ammo bags. It's something you're probably thinking, I don't need an ammo bag. The ammo comes in boxes and I'll just use that. Yeah, you think that until you use an ammo bag. What's really cool about ammo bags is that they get skinnier and lighter as the ammo runs out. So when you've got your ammo bag in your range bag, it takes up less space as it gets less full. It's kind of like a Maglula uploader where you don't think you need one, then you use one and you're like, okay, this is better. It just kind of makes sense. So if you want to check out an ammo bag, head over to Run and Gun. There's a link in the description. It's got black camo with an orange zipper and an electric blue lining on the inside. You'll feel really close to me, which could be a good thing or a bad thing, depending on how you feel about me. So this is my original 226 Legion. I like 226s. 226x SAO with more of the, or I guess it's not an X5. It has the X5 grip though. It definitely, like if you have shot a 226, you know it's kind of got that big sprung sort of recoil impulse. This tracks flatter and it's a little poppier. It doesn't feel as much like kind of a bucking bronco. It's still very gentle, but it's different than the regular 226. Right, this is the X5 226. It has the same style of slide movement. It's a little more kind of, it's got a 5-inch slide, so it's got more mass kind of moving forward and back than the 226X, but it's, I don't know. I think I might actually prefer the way the 226X moves to the full pop X5. They're both brilliant guns, but I think that I kind of prefer that one. What'd you think about that?
I like the size of it. I'll have to get used to the rocking. I mean, yeah, I don't have muscular arms like you.
It flips.
It flips. But man, it's smooth.
Super smooth shooting.
Very smooth shooting. The trigger is just smooth.
Fast
a little
reset.
Deeper than, I mean, it's...
And this is just the regular 226 Legion. Let's try the 226X.
Less of a kick. It's just easy to return.
It's got a bull barrel in it versus the other gun has more of a pencil barrel.
Yeah. Grip still feels great. Easy to get my hands on. Less of a kick. I think it returns to a 0 better. A lot quicker. So if you look at it in slow motion, there's not really a ton of difference between the 226X and the 226X5, despite the fact the X5 weighs about 10 ounces more. The X5 is still going to be easier to aim at small or difficult shots at a distance because it's heavier than the 226X, but at about 34 ounces, it's in kind of a sweet spot to be a very shootable gun. Shooting it side by side with the old Legion, the new gun feels a lot less jumpy than the old gun, but in slow motion, it doesn't really translate into a difference. But I promise if you shot them side by side, you'd be like, this one is just gentler shooting. And that's a good time to talk about how a 226 shoots, because a 226 is a high bore axis gun. If you look where the firing pin is on the gun relative to where your hand sits on the grip tang, it's a very high to kind of the center of the barrel. That means the gun's going to want to lift a lot. So what ends up happening when you shoot a 226 is it has kind of like a wave. It pops back to where you were aiming the gun, but it's very gentle. It's very soft. It's just not a particularly flat shooting gun.
but when you get used to how it moves in recoil, it's super pleasant to shoot, and it's very easy to shoot. It's honestly a gun that is so gentle with newer shooters. I think it's a good one to start people with because it's just not as scary as some of the lighter weight plastic guns that dump more energy in your wrist. Because it does have that rotation, it's just gentler on the shooter. But let's talk about the grips, because the grips are a little bit different than the old one. The texture at the bottom of the grip is great, where that kind of matters less, and the texture kind of like dumps off at the top, trying to be like a Goldilocks, like I can carry, I can shoot well. And the old grips were a little bit nicer as far as traction is concerned, and you had the little patch of traction right there at the top of the grips, which, you know, is a little more bitey than what comes on the new grips. And that's why I'm a big fan of the LOK grips, where the traction is uniform all the way basically up to the bottom of the slide. It just having the traction at the top of the gun makes a big difference in how much the gun rotates. So on a gun that wants to rotate a lot, good grips are important. Again, LOK grips, code HUMBLE, check it out. But these grips are just okay in that regard. They're good, but not great. And I think a lot of people like them, but at the same time, I know that I'm probably gonna get mine upgraded. The front strap on the gun has kind of the classic 226 checkering, which is to say too fine a checkering. It's not as kind of coarse and aggressive as you would want it to be. It's not like a 1911 with kind of the super spiky texture that plants the gun at the back of your fingers on the gun. But it's, you know, better than nothing, I guess. So shooting it head to head with a Staccato P. Now, the Staccato P that I shot against, it has got an MJD Killmonger grip on it, which is a super grippy grip, and MJD makes killer grips as well. I'm a big fan of them. All right, everybody always wants to compare everything to a Staccato P. So I have a Staccato P versus the 226X. Let's see how it goes with just a couple, I don't know, low-ready bill drills on about a 14-inch steel plate at about 22 yards. All right, that was 6 shots, 1 off at 312. Let's go again. 324, all 6 on. All right, Mr. 226X. .325, all 6 on. .329. When I give it appropriate care, I shoot at 25 yards, roughly the same. It very much does feel like a P, honestly, how it moves and how it shoots. It's maybe a little bit jumpier because 226s have that kind of wave recoil, and this has that a little bit, not as bad as like the regular Legion due to the bull barrel. But I would say that this stands up better to a 2011 than perhaps my old Legions did. The Staccato P is a gun that sells for about $2,600 when you include the price of the optic plate, which they don't include with the gun, versus this gun, which is selling for about $1,400. So which would I prefer? I prefer the 2011 because I'm a 2011 guy. Like, the 2011s are probably my favorite platform. It's what I compete with. It's what I'm the most used to shooting. However, I don't shoot the 226X any worse, despite the inferior trigger. It's not the mighty 2011 sliding trigger, but it is a very good trigger. This gun is a good alternative to like a 2011, especially for like a smaller handed shooter and can't make a home on a 2011. It's certainly something that should be considered if you're looking for a single action only gun. So that's all kind of the features. How do I kind of feel about the gun? Well, I liked it enough to buy an A&R holster for it. A&R Kydex has holsters for the 226X. It's important that you get the X and not a regular 226 holster, because a regular 226 holster will not work with the new 226X. We'll come back to that. As I said, I've had it out probably 8 to 10 times to shoot, only probably 4 to 5 of those being recorded, so I don't know the round count. It's well north of 1,000. I was able to shoot, well, I wasn't able to. My buddy Danny, who's a magician with a pistol arrest, was able to shoot this group at 50 yards with it. So Danny was able to get one on the sticker.
That could have been the flyer.
It could have been a flyer, but the group is actually pretty good up here. The 0 for that ammo is not quite where we'd want it. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 down there. At 50 yards, that's still a pretty impressive group. And I tested it with largely Buffalo Creek 115 range ammo, which is a supporter of the channel. If you want to check out Buffalo Creek, I can help you with this. But a lot of 115 range loads, a number of other different 115 target loads, probably 4 or 5 different styles of hollow point. The 226 is not a new design. They kind of have it figured out at this point, so I didn't even have any ammo failures that caused the gun to choke. Like, it just ran like a top. I didn't clean it either. Like, it came out of the box, went straight to the range, still haven't oiled it. It runs fine. I like the gun a lot. It's a big gun, but in this A&R holster, I can actually carry it pretty well. Despite having an 18 round grip, it's pretty comfortable to carry. All of that to say, I'm a fan of the pistol. It hasn't had any problems. It doesn't even have any finish wear. That could be a really good Kydex holster that's not putting wear on the finish, or it could be a really good weapons finish. Take your pick. So let's talk about negatives. The negatives are, I mean, there's nothing wrong with the gun other than I wish the grips were just a little bit more grippy at the top of the gun so it didn't rotate as much. That's like the one technical complaint I have about the design of the pistol. The other complaint I have about it is you should never let engineers name stuff. And what do I mean by that? This is a 226X Legion. This is a 226X5. This is a 226 Legion. This is a 226X5 Legion. It's like they expect you to speak their language when they, like, I understand the engineering approach where like each little word means something about what's on that pistol, but it requires you to think and understand that naming convention rather than just like, this one's called the 226 Dolphin, and this one's called the 226 Silverback, and this one's called the 226 Badger. Like, it would just be a lot easier if there was just a completely standalone style name rather than just the alphabet soup and the numbers with the name, because the 226X does not fit the 226 Legion holster. So what that means is that all the aftermarket sellers of grips are probably going to get a lot of returns for grips that don't fit on the new 226X guns that would fit on the old 226. Similarly, the holster makers are going to have that problem of people ordering a 226 holster for their 226X and it won't fit. Which means for the consumer, they've got this like 4-week period of, I'm excited, I have a new gun, I order a thing that I think is going to work for it, thing doesn't work for it, I have to return it, get my money back, and then the accessory vendor has to process that return and waste the time and money of doing a return, all because an engineer named a gun and couldn't think out the ecosystem. Now, because they were made in the 80s and that's when they named them in the 80s, they probably weren't expecting, you know, nearly 50 years from now that we were gonna have a bunch of different variants. And the Beretta is exactly the same way. So it's like, this is the Beretta 92X Performance Carry Optic, which takes a different holster than the Beretta 92X Defensive. And it's just like, everybody's doing this weird stuff where there's small tweaks to the frames where the accessories don't work with one to the next. Like honestly, the 92 is probably a bigger offender than the 226 for all that same stuff. But I think clarity in naming could help this product line as well as, I mean, Beretta probably should square that away on their 92s as well, because I mean, it's a problem. So if I had to nail down the use case of what the 226X is, I mean, it is a big gun. They make the carry version of the gun, which has like a 3.8-inch barrel. So it's kind of more like a Glock 19X. It still has the 18 round grip on it. So they make a shorter muzzle version of the gun as well, as is, I mean, it's comfortable to carry because it's a middleweight gun. It's perfect for home defense. You could even use it as a competition gun because it is a very easy gun to shoot well. It and the Beretta 92 are kind of like jack of all trades style guns where they're light enough to carry, robust enough and easy enough to shoot, to do home defense with, and you can even flex them into competition. So these hammer guns are some of my favorites for that reason. Like, they really can do it all. I like this gun. I like it better than any of the other ones.
And that's a new release, right?
Yeah, that's the ones that just came out. But the gun is expensive, and Sig Sauer has a bit of a black eye at the moment. So, you know, people might be reticent to spend money on a gun like this, despite the fact it is awesome. I do think that the 226X is an appreciable step forward from the old Legion model. I mean, the old Legion was a great gun in its own right, but the 226X with the enhanced ergonomics and the bull barrel is a more pleasant shooting gun. Anyway, that's the 226X Legion. If you're battling a low left issue with how you're shooting, I made this video on grip that you can check out.